The internet is the global system of interconnected computer networks that uses the Internet Protocol Suite (TCP/IP) to communicate between networks and devices. It is a network of networks that consists of private, public, academic, business, and government networks to local or global scope, linked by a broad array of electronic, wireless, and optical networking technologies. Most traditional communication media, including radio, television, paper mail, and newspapers, was reshaped, redefined, or even bypassed by the internet, giving birth to new services such as email, internet telephones, internet television, video streaming, and the humble podcast. But none of this would have been possible if not for the year 1995. The first year, the internet was entirely privatized, with the United States government no longer providing public funding. America Online and Prodigy offered access to the World Wide Web system for the first time this year, releasing browsers that made it easily accessible to the general public. Similarly, another monumental event happened in 1995 when Lagunitas Brewing Company introduced their India Pale Ale, a new newcomer to the scene. And these two events, not 15 years ago, have come to this nexus of evolution to create this 25 years ago to create this very episode of a podcast where we'll use the internet to distribute our podcast to your ears and drink a Lagunitas IPA.
Cheers!
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 Before we introduce the guest, first sip. It's such a
great intro, by the way, Joe.
Good IPA. You think so or not?
Give
me
the
honest truth.
I do. I love thinking that you Google search major events 1995 and then saw that the internet was privatized. And then connected that to the beer flawlessly. I love that.
I put 40 hours of research into that cold open, and you're just going to trivialize it as if I Googled it for 10 minutes before the show.
Can I say I'm a bit of an asshole?
You are. Speaking of a bit of an asshole, if we want to do antonyms of that, if we want to talk about bit of nice guys, we have one on the podcast with our very special guest and new friend and dear, should we say colleague?
It feels weird to say colleague, but I suppose I am a colleague. Technically, I'm your employee. So
yes, and dear employee of ours.
Yeah.
Josh Brown is on the show. Josh, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, guys.
Welcome,
Josh. Cheers. Cheers. In other significant events of 1995, I was born that year.
Whoa.
God, I swear I was going to ask. I swear I was going to ask. I was like, Josh, when were you born? And then I was like, that seems weird to ask.
I don't care.
Damn it.
It's funny because I was gonna say some of my I do some teaching and some of my students are like 7, and when you ask like a 7-year-old how old you are, you get pretty much any age is fair game for an answer. I've gotten 11, like I'm an 11-year-old teaching the 7-year-old how to play guitar.
That's the oldest age that they could imagine.
And I've got they're like, I don't know any 11-year-olds, he must be 11. And I've gotten like 60. It's just like, wow. I guess 7 years old is not yet when you learn about age in school and what age looks like.
Oh, that's fun. And you teach music, right? That's what you're teaching these kids?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of various forms.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think you start losing the concept of age at my age, too. I said 1995 was 15 years ago because my brain didn't compute that was possibly 25 years ago.
Yeah.
It's just insane.
Well, that's just like, I don't know if that's an age thing. I think that's just like everyone makes that mistake. Because like 2020 does not feel like a real year. This does not feel like a year that was meant to be. I mean, we were supposed to be dead in 2012, so we're 8 years overdue.
And 2000, Y2K, baby.
Oh, that's true. See, I was too young for that, so that went right over my head.
Right, but I think that is what my mind always goes to. It's like we're not that far from the year 2000 because I remember it being such a big deal. But we are. Yeah, we're
20
I've
years
lived
ago.
much longer past 20 or 2000 than I did before it. So I get where your confusion comes from, Joe, but all in all, I'm glad I could correct you on it.
The confusion comes because my brain is rotten because of the drinking during this quarantine. Did I ever tell you my uncle's bit in Y2K?
I
think it was a common uncle bit. He went we did the countdown, and he was in the basement and killed the circuit breaker at midnight, which is kind of funny, but also like just ruined the party for a period of time.
Sure.
Like alarms were going off when we went back to it. That was the reaction his wife, my aunt, gave when he came back up the stairs.
That's a good bit, though.
That's really good. I feel
It's
like
pretty funny.
Yeah. Anytime there's like a post-apocalypse, I would just start doing that same thing.
Right, yeah. You like fire a gun off or something.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
classic bit.
You owe royalties to my Uncle Dave, so I'm sorry.
I couldn't help but notice you guys aren't using cold cans koozies. What the deal with that is?
Yeah, we should be representing the brand. I got one here by my desk at all times.
Nice. Good.
Can we snap a quick picture?
We should get a picture of this beer. I'm going to get a
screen grab. No koozie. All right, I'm going to hold the koozie next to it, though.
I love it.
Genius.
This guy's thinking
Don't hide
of the
that
brand.
face of yours. He's hiding his face. He's ashamed of being on the pod. All right, I got him. Thank you, boys.
I've told no one that I'm here.
He's actually using a voice modulator, so it won't be tracked back to him.
I think I'm talking to my grandma right now.
And the name Josh Brown is clearly a pseudonym for your real name. There's no one named something that's like a John Doe type of situation.
Yeah, there's I forget exactly. I looked up recently. There's somewhere in the tens of thousands of me out there in the world. The most notorious of which was a kicker for the New York Giants for many years, Josh Brown.
Yeah, I
remember
him.
Yeah, he's known for kicking footballs. He's also known for domestic violence, where he was arrested for it. Yeah, terrible stuff. But when the whole story broke, which I think I was in high school, there was an article out titled "Josh Brown is a complete and utter piece of shit," and all of my friends.
Was that in the New York Times?
I think it was, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal. Only the most, reputable sources.
Right.
I love that. I love how easy and fun it was for your friends to grab that article.
Yeah, I mean, talk about being handed a joke on a platter, on a silver platter.
Low effort hazing.
Exactly.
That's good.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Josh Brown. That has to be the caption for this episode of this show then. It's
Josh Brown is a total
and utter piece of shit.
Also, Lagunitas.
Lagunitas.
Like that. Also, there's Lagunitas.
Let's get to the beer. I am loving these first few sips, which is surprising for me because it is an IPA. And Josh, you, when we asked you to be on the show, suggested this one. So what did you like about this beer?
Are you not an IPA guy?
Not typically, notoriously not an IPA guy.
I do feel like IPAs are the thing where it's like I learned to like beer because of IPAs, but also I feel like everyone I talk to is like actually into beer is like, IPAs, you just kind of like throw a bunch of hops in a like throwing a bunch of hops in a beer doesn't make it a good beer. That being said,
that's my mindset.
I can't tell the difference. It's like I kind of feel the same way about wine. Whereas like if you give me a $10 bottle of wine and a $100 bottle of wine, I'm gonna be like, they are both wine, and I'm not a big fan of either one, frankly. And I feel like with beer, I just don't have like a sophisticated enough palate to tell the difference. So if you want to serve me alcohol, just hide it with a bunch of hops, and I'm gonna love it. And it's great.
Yeah, I like that. That I kind of have that with sushi. I can have, as long as it's not like gas station sushi or whatever. If it's fine sushi and sushi that I've paid a bunch of money for has been very similar to me. So I don't pay a bunch of money for it. I get that some people have a palate where just like wine and beer, they can distinguish it, but it's just not worth, I don't get the return on that investment in any way.
Yeah.
Nick, you have that with anything?
I'm trying to think if I do have that with anything.
He's a connoisseur of everything.
Of course, yes.
No, that's the thing. I don't have a very refined palate, so sushi is one thing that, I don't pay a ton for. I also don't love it that much, so that's another reason why I won't drop, hundreds of dollars on it or whatever. But I think it's a really good place to be at when you can tell when you're getting a return on your investment, like when you can enjoy the nuances of something and to focus on that rather than trying to chase some taste or feeling that you're never going to get from something that's so expensive just because other people value it highly.
Totally.
But that's enlightenment, baby.
Yeah.
That's the same thing with cocktails for me too. It's just like, I can't justify spending whatever $15 on a cocktail because I can't It's the same as buying a rail cocktail in my pathetic palate.
This is sort of how I feel about. There are a lot of craft breweries now doing like lagers and pilsners, which they hadn't been for a while, which I like because that's the type of beer I prefer. But you're going to pay almost twice as much for that as you would pay for like a Coors Light or a Bud Light or even a Bud Heavy or something. And there's just not that much of a flavor difference when it comes to lagers and pilsners. It's just not worth it.
I'm like always disappointed. I have a Belgian roommate, so he likes beer a lot. And
nice, strong beers.
Yeah, definitely. And he like got this. He had these like this like one of the 4-packs, but the 16-ounce cans. And was like this fancy beer. He was like, oh yeah, a 6-pack was like $20 for the 4, like $20 for a 4-pack's kind of expensive. Like you should try it. It's this like it's this like super nice brewery, but it's their like pub. Version of their beer, which is just like a regular old lager. Okay. And he's like, yeah, you should try some. And I tried some. I'm like, yeah, I mean, like, it's expensive Bud Light, you know what I mean? Or like it's expensive Budweiser. Like it's not.
It's like beer.
Yeah, it's beer.
That's the thing about Belgian beers. Typically, though, is they're like heavier alcohol, which is nice, and maybe you are willing to pay a little bit more for. But yeah, if they're just making a basic beer like that, there's no reason to pay out the nose.
Is Delirium
but yeah, I like Lagunitas.
I like Lagunitas too. Just to wrap up the Belgian thing before we get into the Lagunitas, why you brought Lagunitas on the show. Was Delirium Tremens Belgium? If not, we move right on. We don't know. Okay, never mind.
You couldn't have looked that up.
You guys have done before?
You couldn't have looked that up in the time that you wanted to bring it up.
Wanted to throw you under the bus. Let's come back
to
Cabal.
Right.
We'll come back.
Are we gonna rank also? Is that a thing you guys do?
Oh,
I feel like sometimes I feel I might maybe I missed it in the episode. Let's do, but I feel like in some of the episodes at the end, you're like, yeah, so like, where does this one fall? And you're like, I don't know, like 30. Great.
Much more scientific than this. We spent 40 hours.
Do you have a list? Research? Like, do you have the actual list?
Oh, at coldcanspodcast.com/rankings, you'll be able to find the full 100.
Perfect. Because we're definitely going to rank this one, right?
Oh yeah, we're going to try.
You guys are past 100.
This is a Malternative, of course, as fans of the show would know.
So yeah, we'll give you the premise, Josh. As a new introductory, as an immigrant to Cold Cans Nation, we will give you the premise. It's the top 100 beers of all time. We are now in episode 110 or something, 111. I don't know what this one's going to be.
Oh, good for you guys.
Yeah, 111.
And so in episode 111. We are now the beer either. So now that this is a beer that's not currently on our list, we're deciding whether it makes the top 100, and if it does, we rank it, or whether it goes to Satan's walk-in cooler in hell and dies there and stays there. Okay. So fans could check this out at coldcanspodcast.com/rankings.
I'm on it right now. Looks pretty great.
It sure
great
does.
Website.
Yeah.
We spend as much time. Natterdays. Did Natterdays get ranked? No, that missed.
Okay. All right. Natty Light. So what are the ranking? What's the ranking system? Because Natty Light is 100, and Natty Light is like a great beer, not because it's good, but because it's Natty Light. And that like part of the idea?
Taste, mouthfeel. I can't remember what the qualifiers.
Yeah, sort of like sessionability.
To crush 8 of them in a basement in college on a given
sessionability, cost, and it's all about the like sort of subjective nature of these beers. So like Natty Light is actually not our 100th beer, it's our 100th episode. So if you go into rankings, Natty Light is actually 27 on the list.
Oh my god. Okay, so I'm just on the podcast.
So if you go to the rankings tab,
yeah, I got you.
That's 27. Yeah, because we love Natty Light. I think to what you were getting at, it's like necessarily. Of course, it's not the best beer, but beers that like it about energizes me as much as only 26 other beers can beat. Like,
right. I guess that's fair.
I fucking
memories of it from college, that sort of thing. That was kind of what we talked about in that episode of like why it was that high.
Ooh, while I'm looking at the rankings, there is a Lagunitas beer that is number 5 on the rankings.
Yes.
I actually don't think I've had this one.
Nighttime ale, right?
Uh-huh.
Is that what it is? Yeah, well, that is such a good beer. I think
I've had
a limited run.
It may have been, or it's seasonal, because it's definitely like a winter warmer type. It's an 8.2% alcohol beer. Mm-hmm. super good though. When we ranked that one, we were on such a stretch of like winter warmers. I think we got, a little big for our britches. I don't know if it should be up that high.
Yeah.
Same thing with Pyramid Snowcap Winter Ale, but
Pyramid
at the
Snowcap
time,
is because Pyramid Brewery gave us the beer for free to review it, and then gave us their head brewer to interview. And so let's just say we were a little biased and put them super high on the list.
Yeah, that's fair. We can't
be bought.
Yeah,
still
we can't be bought, of course, except for the few times that we were bought, like when Pyramid and Optimism came on. We love you, and we reviewed you objectively.
Yes,
but to the point of why we love beers, I cut you off to talk about Delirium Tremens, Josh, right as you were about to say why you brought Lagunitas on the show. So let's talk about your relationship with the beer.
So, Lagunitas and I go way back, probably sophomore year of college. So honestly, I didn't really like beer at all until maybe sophomore year of, last year when I was 21, not during sophomore year of college.
Right.
Of course.
Yeah. But, assuming that I was of age at the time.
This is an
in
entertainment
1995,
podcast.
and you could. Thank you. I just I think I said, IPAs taught me to like beer. Because I first
Sure.
someone's like, oh, have a beer, and I was like, oh, great. This isn't just shitty, vodka from a plastic handle anymore. This will probably be really good. And then I drank whatever, I'm sure Coors, Miller, something like that. I was like, this is disgusting, and I don't want it anymore. And wait, you're telling me I have to drink 6 of these to feel anything? Oh my God, this sounds awful. I definitely would not need 6 at this point in life, maybe 2. But and so I was just I just kind of never really considered them. But then you get into college, and people, and I think especially my friends became a little bit too much into beer, where one of my friends would do these he would do meetups with people where he'd literally meet up with a bunch of random people on Craigslist to exchange beers from these higher tier brewery. Weird stuff.
Gosh, your friend was doing orgies, but
yeah, probably, but we had to let him have that one. We're we all know what you're really doing, but sure.
Yeah, go ahead and review your beer with your friends.
Anyways, all my friends are getting into nice beers, and I'm all right, am I the weird one that I don't like beer? I'm a college, sophomore. I feel all I should be doing is drinking beer. And so I started looking for things that were more tasty, and people recommended IPAs. And the first time I had an IPA, which was a Harpoon, which I don't know if you guys have heard of Harpoon.
Yeah.
So Harpoon's a big Boston brewery.
East Coast, yeah.
I'm from Boston. Yeah. So the first IPA I ever had was a Harpoon IPA, which now is one of my favorite beers. At the time, I was this is even worse than the Miller Lite. How is beer so bad? Why do people like
chewing
it?
And
yeah. And it's one of those things where it it's truly an acquired taste. I think you have 5 or 6 of them, and all of a sudden it's just you get it. You're oh. Okay, I understand the hops now. I understand why this crazy hoppy flavor is really, really good, and when I would crave it. And Lagunitas was, I think, the first beer that my parents ever were all right, you're gonna be 21 in a few months, you can have a beer. And they got a 6, nice. Oh man. And they got a 6-pack of Lagunitas, and
so was this something they drank regularly then?
I don't know if they drank it regularly. Honestly, my parents aren't huge drinkers. My dad would totally be the type to just he still plays baseball, and he would just
nice.
It's very
sure,
very low level baseball. Not because he wasn't a good baseball player, when he was 30, but because he's just been declining at a very even pace for the last 30 years. So it's pretty funny going to watch.
Even is better baseball than declining exponentially. So
it's true. It's true. He's currently he's in an over 40 league and an over 50 league.
Hell
yeah.
Yeah. And there's actually not much of a difference in skill between those two levels. I think over 30 is the last, all right, there's a decent amount of athleticism still left. But he would always just after those games in the parking lot, just have a couple of Coors Lights or Bud Lights or, Michelob Ultras, which I consider, the daddest of beers. And
the fit dad,
yeah, that's true. Only 96 calories.
The over 40 baseball dad is drinking Mick Ults.
Totally. Oh, yeah. And so I think he was just he's a kid. I hear the kids are into IPAs. Let's get him this one. It looks good. And I just happened to really I won't say like it, but I was this isn't bad. I can drink this. I can drink more than a few sips of it. And then so the next time I was like with friends, I was like, oh, let's get Lagunitas. And it just like kind of clicked it for me. So Lagunitas and Harpoon IPA, I think, were the first two I started drinking. And then from then on, I was like, IPAs only. I will drink nothing else. You know what I mean?
You know the reason. You know the reason I think your dad picked up Lagunitas IPA?
Tell me.
Is because it's what he celebrated your birth with back in 95.
Oh.
He said, wow, there's this new IPA on the shelf. I just had a son. I'm going to drink this Lagunitas.
Yeah. And then said, when he's 21, this is the beer I'm going to share with him. And we're going to have this bond. And then he's going to go on a world-renowned podcast and discuss it and break it down.
And finally, my plan will be revealed. Yeah, it will all come to fruition. Wow, this is we need some therapy to
we
work
solved that. We solved that for you.
But
no, I love that though. I also love your dad's playing baseball. That's cool.
I do too. That's a lot of fun. I think it's interesting. Now that's the first bumper that I've enjoyed.
Joe, I think your internet is a bit. Thank you. Joe, I think you are cutting in and out a bit just for what it's worth.
Shit.
Yeah, that was so delayed.
Yeah, it was very delayed, but that's okay. We'll roll
carry
with
on
it.
the
We can
conversation
still sort of
without me. I'll come back. Keep going.
He's going to reboot the web.
All right.
He's going to go back to 95 and reboot the web.
Wow.
So Josh, I was going to ask before because you said you didn't really like beer when were you just not much of an alcohol person at all, or was there some other alcohol you did like to drink back then?
I mean, I think it was definitely just like, I don't love alcohol, but like I'll drink it. And like I have like,
it's a means to an end sort of thing.
It's a means, exactly. Yeah. It's a means to an end, just like when I was a kid, I was like, I don't like broccoli, but if I eat the broccoli, I'll feel good and be healthy. Now I love broccoli, but same idea, except, kind of the total opposite at the same time with beer versus broccoli. I think just like, and honestly to this day, like I'm still not a huge alcohol person. Like I'll drink a nice beer. I'll drink a Lagunitas. I'll go to a brewery and get a beer, but like, I don't just like sit around and drink Rainier or drink like Coors Light. Like I think like if I'm not drinking like for the purpose of drinking, I don't see the point. Like I don't enjoy like a pub beer or anything like that enough to just like have one with dinner. I don't know. Probably just like being in a fraternity in college and like drinking so much beer. I think I don't want it anymore.
Yeah, that sort of makes sense. Where did you go to college, by the way?
Tufts University in Boston.
That's in Boston. Okay.
Yeah, which like you probably haven't heard of. I don't know. I feel it's like
I have heard of it. Yeah, I wouldn't have known it was in Boston. I don't think, but I've definitely heard of Tufts.
Totally, yeah. Great school. Like I loved it there. My parents went there actually. Dad
cool.
Still plays baseball, but
did he play baseball in college there?
He did not. He played soccer actually in college.
Oh wow.
Although it's one of those things where like he told me when like I grew up thinking my dad played soccer at Tufts. Like oh shit, like my dad played on the varsity soccer team at Tufts. Then I found out he played on. Well, he was like, well, it was like the JV team technically. Like like we like would practice at the varsity sometimes. Then I found out it was just like a club team. Like it was just like there were no tryouts. Degrading. Yeah, when I was like 18, it was just like there were no tryouts or anything. It was just I was like, Dad, I do that too. Like I play club basketball and like flag football. What do you mean? Like,
oh, that's funny.
Because the Tufts soccer team is actually really good. They won the state championship I think twice while I was there. I mean the D3 state championship. So it's
the D3. Yeah. Well, national championship. I'm sure D3 national championship. That's cool.
Yeah. All the way in Boston.
Nice. And you moved to Seattle.
I just
recently
moved to Seattle 6 months ago. I actually hit you up before I even moved to Seattle.
I remember.
Which was, I don't know. Was it weird to receive that message? I guess to catch the listeners up, my girlfriend's lived in Seattle for 3 years. And we went to school together. She moved here immediately to work at Microsoft. I went to Switzerland and did like a teaching program there, and then I was in San Francisco briefly, then back to Boston for like a year and a half. And then I moved here this past October. Before I moved here, Julie works at the co-working space affiliated with the podcast studio.
You bet.
Cloud Studios, I'm assuming you've you've shouted out before.
Shout out.
And
we used to. Now we're ashamed.
Joey's. That's true.
I'm kidding. Joey's back, by the way.
I'm back.
Yeah. Did you reset the internet?
Am I delayed?
No, you're good.
I think you're good. Yeah.
Carry on, Josh.
Cool.
Yeah. Sorry. Keep going,
Keep
Josh.
plugging our business.
Thank you. Yeah, Cloud Studios. Everyone record your podcasts here. Even though we don't have a studio right now. Hopefully soon, though. Hopefully very soon. Although, did you see phase 2 is probably not happening until like another.
Yep, it's gonna be longer than we thought. Unfortunately,
we're gonna get there.
That's why we drink, Josh. That's why we drink.
That is why we drink. Yeah. So, anyways, I moved here, and before I moved here, my girlfriend was working at the co-working space that's affiliated with her studio. She's like, "Hey, there's like a podcast studio in the basement, and like you like recording things," and I was like, "I do like recording things." So I think I just cold emailed you, honestly. Yeah, and we like chatted on the phone, and it was very much like, yeah, like, okay, hit me up when you get out here if you're still interested. And I hit you up when I got out here. And then,
for sure,
like so long ago.
How fun.
It does seem long ago, but yeah, I'm glad we did get put in touch, and it's been good to have you on board at the studio. And now to have
a pandemic.
Yeah, I really feel like it was like, all right, like January, because I started working there January, and it was like January we're gonna like train and like get you accustomed to some clients, and then like February and March was like, all right, like hit the ground running, like have a few great shows that I was working on, and then there was a nationwide
and then everything stopped.
Pandemic. Yeah, and then everything stopped.
No more business.
Yeah.
But we'll be back. We're not going to talk about that anymore. We're going to magically forget about
that's
all
another
our
good
problems.
bumper. That was good. You're getting to finally justify these things.
I just had to, I can't hit the ground running. It takes some stumbles to start.
Sure. It's rumbling, bumbling, stumbling.
So Joe, how did you fix the internet? What did you do? Walk us through.
As astute listeners remember, the internet is nothing more than packets of information transmitted through TCP IP.
A series of tubes, as they say.
That Al Gore set up across the infrastructure across the nation. No, I closed the tab. I opened it again, and then I'm back.
Oh, didn't even do the full restart.
Didn't even need it.
Wow.
That's the kind of computer. I'm like a little computer whiz guy.
I've heard that about you.
A lot of people come to me and talk to me about computers. They'll set them up, put them up in their home. Mm-hmm. One thing I was going to bring up as my internet died and I was delayed was it struck me as interesting that Josh said I got into beer with IPAs because like that was that hoppy flavor, which I love. Now Nick said he's not a hop head, he's a malt man. I'm a self-professed hop head, and I love them only way later. Like to your point about an acquired taste, that was years of acquiring in order for me to like them, because I was just drinking. Also what you said, cheap beer in college. And so then anything beyond that was like yellow mustard to stone ground mustard. I couldn't handle it. My little tummy couldn't handle it. So now
did you like the cheap beer you were drinking, or were you just like, it's beer?
Yeah. I don't think I cared about what I liked at the time. It was a means to an end.
Ah, we used that same term.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How fun. And now it's actually part of the process, which I really enjoy. So that's interesting. And I wonder if part of it is this IPA that you tried, because this flavor, if we're to discuss the beer for a moment or two, is maybe because of its age, and also something I brought up, your Harpoon IPA, the other one that you like, even older than this. 1993 is when that one started. So both of these 20 plus years old, very uncommon for IPAs, perhaps are why they have such a refined taste. It's not overly bitter. It's not. I don't think this is throwing a bunch of hops at something.
Right.
Whereas if you talk about a lot of the fresh hop craze that's going through the Pacific Northwest right now, that to me can sometimes edge on the side of throwing hops at it. Sometimes it's really juicy and good, and I like Citra hops and Mosaic hops. But this thing is a unique IPA in its how refined it is. I think
it's mild,
super mild, but yet not like watered down, not like a light beer or anything like that.
Yeah.
So anybody in Cold Cans Nation that doesn't like IPAs, this is maybe also your gateway drug.
I was
much
about
like a
to
young,
say,
yeah,
feels like a gateway beer for sure.
it is.
Yeah.
Much like a 16-year-old Josh Brown when he tried his first Lagunitas. Or
Oh,
whatever
come
he
on.
said.
I
Or
was
it
at
you were 21?
least 16 and a half.
This, again, is an entertainment podcast. Nothing is prosecutable by the court of law.
Yes.
Our lawyers are nodding in the background.
Yeah, don't mess with them. There are several of them, and they all have really nice suits on.
We staff several. We staff the best. They're all Armani. Nonetheless, yes, this is a Gateway IPA.
I think that's a really
like
good
it.
point, Joe. Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I think this was made before the style of IPA that we're currently seeing. I think that's maybe why it tastes like it is. I don't know if they changed the recipe over the years. Yeah. Or if this is just, at the time, this was like, oh, that's a hoppy beer. Whereas now, there are so many beers that just they throw in so many different types of hops, which is cool for them to experiment with. But that's the type of beer I don't like, is when it's just like it's all hops all the time. Like that's the only flavor and the only mouthfeel you really get. So this is just nice and subtle in its own way.
It's funny hearing you guys say this because it's one of those things that I've never thought about, but I'm like, oh, of course. Like that makes so much sense because I feel like there's two types of IPAs you get. There's like this was developed last year. It's like so-and-so's crazy hopped up super IPA. Yeah. It's like 8% alcohol and it's like an insane
cosmic explosion.
Yeah, exactly.
Hitler's
and
revenge.
Then there's like, and I actually noticed it with Harpoon more than this, but now that I'm drinking this and hearing this, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Harpoon, like when you drink a Harpoon after one of those like modern IPAs, you're like, oh, this isn't even an IPA. Like it's just, it's super mildly hoppy. And I do think that is probably why I started liking them and what kind of was the gateway, so to speak, for me to get more into the like more modern things.
That totally makes sense. And I agree. This is the only IPA that I have liked that I've tried in recent memory. So
I feel like wow, really?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is one that I would genuinely seek out if it was somewhere and I wasn't feeling like a really light beer. I would get this IPA.
Nick,
can we bring her to the dark side?
Do you hear the little bell at the end of the tunnel? Do you hear the top echelon tier, the little number 1 bell ringing at the end of the tunnel?
We'll see. We're going to leave it a mystery for now.
We haven't crowned a new number 1 in a long fucking time. Hold on.
Number 1.
Not that we're going to.
I mean,
July 19th of 2019 was our number 1 to shoot.
So nearly a calendar year.
Just a humble Lagunitas drinker, not trying to convince you guys of anything. I'm just happy to be here. We don't have to go for the top 10.
Well, before we're ready to crown this beer, let's do our segment.
All right.
Which is another reason. Yeah, Josh brought up. Why did you suggest this type of segment for this beer?
So,
go ahead.
Was doing some research.
Ooh.
Yeah, because I want to be an informed guest.
Sure.
And turns out IPAs was like, what goes good with IPAs? I sort of think of IPAs as like summery. But I'm not like a huge beer with dinner kind of guy in general. Like I would much prefer to like have a few beers and then dinner, or have dinner, wait a couple hours so I'm not as full, have a few beers, small stomach, don't like a lot of stuff in there at the same time.
Look who's bragging over here, small stomach guy. No, please continue.
Small stomach doesn't mean small belly. They're very different things. Anyways, so from my gatherings, it turns out that a lot of people recommend IPA as a way to cool down spicy foods. And if you guys have ever watched Hot Ones, there's an episode on it with Gordon Ramsay where he like pulls out every trick in the book to like try to cool his tongue off after eating these wings, which is funny because he's a chef and you'd think he'd be able to handle it. But I forget if he brought out an IPA specifically, but I'm pretty sure he brought out beer during it to like cool his tongue off. And IPAs supposedly go really well with spicy food to cool your tongue off. Something about the hops and I don't know, like I guess alcohol maybe, mixes with the spice. I'm talking out of my ass right now, but
yeah, who could say?
There must be some science.
There's only one way to find out.
So I figured we could all get some spicy food. I have this little tube of wasabi that we got.
Okay, let's reveal these one by one.
Okay.
So Josh, as the guest,
Josh is going hard.
So I just went right in. We have a tube of wasabi.
What is that? How do you purchase that? What are we looking at here?
You guys ever been to Seattle Fish Guys?
Yeah,
I have.
Really good spot.
Right near where I live. These.
Oh yeah, and I'm not a big spicy food fan. Let's just get that out of the way first.
Same.
I don't know why I suggested this segment. And so I like got Seattle Fish Guys with my housemates like a few weeks ago, and I didn't get wasabi, and I brought home we got like fish to make sushi at home, and I brought home fish, and I brought home like they give you like a little mini tin of wasabi and like ginger, things like that. And I was like, this is good. And my housemate was like, And then without saying anything, my housemate left the house, went back to Seattle Fish Guys just to get this tube of wasabi because he was like, we need more.
Yeah.
So,
this is not sufficient wasabi.
What do you say?
Is this the Belgian?
Is that the Belgian?
No, not the Belgian guy. Different guy. Different guy.
Carry on.
So anyways, I have a tube of wasabi. Didn't know it came in that form. And I'm just going to go straight to the face with it. Not even going to...
Raw dog. It's straight from the tap.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, wow.
That's
wasabi
intense.
is definitely hotter, than what I brought today. I have a spicy chili biltong air-dried beef. So it's similar to beef jerky, but it is just strips of beef rather than a sort of ground up and amalgamized and dried jerky. So,
wow.
Okay.
Or amalgamated.
That will be much better experience for you.
Yes, I think it's got a really nice flavor. It's not that hot. That's my little secret. But it's the spiciest thing I have. Because like you, Josh, I'm not a huge spice guy. Yeah. So I don't keep like spicy things on hand, really.
You guys aren't heat seekers.
No.
To quote from the podcast that created this podcast.
To steal and yes. What do you have, Joe?
Trader Joe's elote corn chip dippers. Now, elote is like the Mexican street corn. I was in Mexico City right before this, and we had street corn, and we didn't do well with it. We had the rumblies, also to quote that podcast. And I'm going to dip one into the actual spice-containing container, which is El Sombrero down in Columbia City in the Seattle neighborhood. One of my favorite little family-run little Mexican places. And you know it's authentic by the name, El Sombrero. And they have a very spicy salsa. They're generous with it during this coronavirus time. So if you're in the Seattle area, go to El Sombrero.
Only during this time they're generous with it?
They're stingy when you're at the table, but they give you lots of these in these to-go cups.
Wow.
And so we saved one, and it's an incredibly spicy salsa that I will
nice.
The TJ.
So you're going, the double spice, because I have had those dippers, and they are spicy on their own. So Godspeed, Joe.
Wow.
Did you have one on Monday?
I don't know what you're talking about.
The contents of this bag, you son of a bitch.
I don't know what you're talking about. Let's eat them at once. We'll like edit out this portion of the podcast, and then we'll come back.
Or keep it in. Yeah, I don't know. I might throw up. I might just be like, oh, this is fine. Like, everything's on the table.
Well, how else are we gonna do it? We're gonna do a round, like.
No, we can do it all together.
All right,
okay,
let's do it all together.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Oh my god, that's spicy.
You're a maniac for doing wasabi, for what it's worth. I would never do that.
Really wakes you up,
good.
Did you get that like nail through the middle of your skull wasabi feeling?
Right through my nose.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Like, you put it on your tongue, you have a split second where you're like, oh, this isn't so bad. Yeah. And then it just like, whoosh, shoots right through your nose.
Oh yeah.
How much did you drive down?
Like a little fingerful. I'm nothing crazy. I definitely didn't like squirt it into my mouth.
Good.
Okay.
Okay. How did the beer counteract the spiciness?
I'm gonna be honest, like pretty well. I actually feel like my mouth is still like a little hot, but it was pretty instantly. I don't know if it like was really cooling, but it definitely like distracted me, I suppose you could say.
I think with wasabi too, it's sort of like, because when I've eaten it with sushi, when you just drink pretty much anything, it does help wash it down better than with some other spices where it kind of lingers in your mouth, unless you do like a sour cream or milk or some fat-based thing to drag it down your.
I feel like I maybe didn't choose
throat.
the best food for this challenge, because I feel like it's pretty quick anyways.
No, I think it's a good bold choice. I would never have straight lined.
Right. Well, I mean, to your point
wasabi.
Of like, I'm psycho, but like, I mean, to your point of like lingering, like I feel like a salsa is a much more lingering spice.
Sure.
So let's
Joe, how was yours?
Well, I just wanted to say Japanese. I think the Japanese people love beer in general. If you go to Tokyo or whatever, everybody's drinking beer everywhere, and almost all Japanese food just pairs very well with beer. Ramen and a cold beer on a rainy day there's nothing better. And sushi and beer works great because I think of that little wasabi kick when you dip your little dippy.
Yeah.
Okay. I have the elote. I have the salsa. I tried it and it was perfect. This is extremely spicy salsa. And the elote stuff is just riddled with like salt and MSG. And that combination was kind of an attack, an assault on my senses. And then, man, this IPA, to what Josh was saying, it just washed it down. It's like wine and cheese. It was so fucking good. This is as good of a parable or terrible than I can ever remember doing on this show. That was a perfect combination.
Wow.
I'm on.
Nick?
Yeah, it was a nice pairing for me too. This biltong stuff is not extremely like uncomfortably spicy. I didn't like need something to get it out of my mouth, but the beer, it complemented it very well. Just the like slow, low heat of the spicy chili jerky. The beer was perfect with it. So yeah.
Hell yeah.
Can't speak highly enough.
Look at that.
Let's hold up our spicy thing so we have a picture.
Good Lord. Do we post these anywhere?
They're on the Instagram, Joe.
Come on,
at
Joe.
Cold Cans Pod. Like and subscribe.
Instagram.
And follow. I mean,
Good
DM. DMs are open.
Very smart.
Can I give just get on Instagram? Can I give an update on I've deleted all apps from my phone?
Sure, please.
It's been a few weeks now.
All social media apps?
Also, I've kept, like, I deleted email. I deleted everything that wasn't like, hold on, we have to wait for the bumper.
No, they're clapping for you. They're clapping for you getting off your apps.
I got off my ass and deleted all the apps, and I've kept only the communication apps on my phone. And number one, I feel excellent. I feel like I have a longer attention span. Number two, I want those apps. I want them back. I want to get back on Twitter. But what I've done is, and so Nick and I have talked about this. Nick and I have talked about this before. Nick has deleted entire social media accounts. I have not done that. All I've done is taken them off the thing that's in my pocket all the time and made it so that if I want to go on Twitter, I have to like sit down at my computer, open a goddamn browser, and go on twitter.com. And that's been lovely. So everybody delete the apps.
Throw your apps app into the ocean. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. But first give Cold Cans a follow.
Yes, please. Follow and delete the app.
And then you can delete it because you don't have to delete your account. Just delete the app.
Yes.
Sure.
And then maybe
download numbers though.
Buy a new phone, make a new Twitter account, follow, and then delete.
And set up a bot that automatically likes all of our posts. That's it.
I suggest everyone in Cold Cans Nation buys 5 phones. The only purpose of the phone is to subscribe to our podcast and automatically download it every week and leave 5-star reviews. That's all I suggest. That's all I ask for. 110 episodes of content.
Humble ask.
And can we have one humble ask?
Oh man.
All right, let's rank this beast. I'm ready.
Do you have a beer advocate, Nick?
I'm England. So beer advocate speaks very well of this beer. It has an 88, which translates to very, very good.
Oh my goodness. Wow. I had no idea. I had no idea what I was bringing to the table. I was just like, I like a Lagunitas. Let's do that one.
It's a good pick. It's something you always see on the shelf. Like this is very widely distributed, which is in no small part because they're owned by Heineken.
Yeah.
But that's fine. They like Heineken International, of course, of fame. But I don't think it affects the quality of the beer. It's nice that it's available everywhere.
It's so fucking good. To have distribution with a beer this good is quite the achievement. So, Josh, we have tiers, and that's usually where we start when we talk about ranking this. So the top is the cream of the crop, and then as you scroll down, when we hit number between 16 and 17, that's the Zen 10. So those are no longer the best. Okay. I believe there's also no longer 10. There's 11 there now. And then we have wild cards, which is like, we like these beers, but they're a little forgettable. We'll go to them if like somebody has them at a party. I'm not going to complain. I'm like, hell yeah, give me one of those. Mild cards, similar, but more forgettable. And actually, Montucky Cold Snack being in mild cards, a goddamn shame.
That is a sin.
In hindsight. And then we have the olive loaf. These beers remind us of like having an olive loaf of bread or olive loaf of meat. I don't remember where we landed.
Yeah, that's like bologna with olives in it.
Right, bologna with olives in it. Then the deplorables. Now these are mass market.
Just please let Joey finish his rankings discussion. He loves talking about the rankings.
The deplorables is
have this.
What we're talking here is mass market light beers. These are your beers that you're going to encounter on a daily basis, but you don't necessarily love. And finally, from 92 to 93, there's the tier of the Russian radioactives. These things are putrid. I don't know why they're still in the top 100. We haven't totally discussed the logistics of that. Now I have gotten it all out.
Wow.
Josh, your thoughts?
All right. I like to think that we're at least in the top few tiers here, seeing as we all enjoyed the beer. I'm seeing a lot of great stuff on here. There's Fat Tires, like 25. That's a good one. Where are we at? I mean, we have the Natural Light at 27. Depending on how we rank certain factors, I would certainly rather have a Lagunitas than a Natural Light, like if I'm using that as a point to work off of. However, I do recognize the argument that Natural Light was a very large part of my life for many years. And in terms of total beers consumed, Natural Light blows Lagunitas out of the water.
Its beer advocate score, by the way, 42 or awful. So a big discrepancy between the professionals and what we think.
Oh, man. All right. So, yeah, it's a complex ranking system that, frankly, I'd have to really study it and understand fully to properly rank this.
There's an entire graduate course on it.
Yeah. I mean, if it was me, without being too audacious, perhaps.
Please be.
Like, I would put it in the top 20.
Wow. So he's got it at least in the Zen 10 and maybe as high as the cream of the crop. Nick?
I'm in cream, baby.
Wow.
I'm pure cream. Now, if you'll indulge me one more time, we're going to read the cream of the crop. We're going to read it taint to tip, 16 to 1. Mm-hmm. This is from 16 up is we got to grind the gears to a halt. 16 up is Optimism Breweries Before the Dawn. Thank you, Optimism, for coming onto the pod. 15 is Rataburger. 14 is Bat Squatch. 13, Sculpin IPA. This was a new addition because it was a new Malternative. Number 12, Le Fin du Monde, a outstanding beer. Number 11, Travelin' Like Kolsch. Number 10, Sierra Nevada Hazy Little Thing IPA. Very similar to throwing hops at it. I love Hazy Little Thing IPAs. Number 9, Prima Pills. I kind of don't remember that one. Number 8, Rodenbach Grand Cru. Number 7, Cold Cans Kolsch. Now, this is a beer that Nick and I brewed ourselves. Legitimately was good. Number 6, Spotted Cow. Number 5, Lagunitas Nighttime Ale. Number 4, Pyramid Snowcap Winter Ale. A couple winter warmers kind of back and forth there. 3, Pseudo Sue. This is a Midwest beer. Still excellent. Holds up to this day. Number 2, Delirium Tremens, a Belgian Strong Pale Ale. Your Belgian roommate is going to love this beer. I'm sure he does. And then our current number 1, a go-to, it's still in my fridge right now. Nick and I had one the other day. Deschutes by Deschutes Brewery. Just a super fucking straightforward, classic 99-calorie beer. That is the cream of the crop. All three of us believe it belongs in this tier. In fact, Josh was the most pessimistic, only saying top 20.
Yeah, it turns out it was.
Our head is a little higher.
I can understand. You didn't want to.
Let's feel the room
on your own beer. Yeah, you're feeling us out. Yeah. But I'm up. I am long on this beer.
Nick,
Lagunitas.
You're not feeling.
No, not that high, Joe. Not that long.
Whenever we hit a new number 1, I hit a new decibel level.
Screaming into the mic.
Trying to edit this podcast together. I don't think I'm quite to the new number 1 either. I don't think. No. I'm not going to give my thoughts until. So here's the format, Josh. We will do a 3, 2, 1, and then we'll say our number out loud, and then we'll figure out where it fits after we do that. Sometimes we're all on the same page. So we're agreeing it's in cream of the crop. So when you 3, 2, 1 it, your number is going to be between 1 and 16. Cool. Do we all have a number?
I have a number. I'm locked in.
Yes.
I'm locked in. 3, 2,
1,
8,
9. Oh.
Okay, 8.
We got a 3, 8, and a 9.
a 3, 8, and a 9. I gave it number 3 between Delirium Tremens and Pseudo Sue. Nick, you gave it 8?
I'm 8. I'm right below Cold Cans Kolsch.
Cold Cans Kolsch and Rodenbach, and Josh is between Rodenbach and
I gave it
Primo
9, and frankly, I haven't had half of the beers in the cream of the crop, so it's a little tough for me to tell. But I have had Sierra Nevada, and I like Lagunitas a little bit better, hence the 9 over the 10. Didn't want to say it's better than the Cold Cans Kolsch. I can only imagine how great that was. I don't want to insult your heritage by putting it above Spotted Cow. And I certainly was not going to be ambitious enough to put it in the top 3. So hence my 9 ranking.
Okay.
I think it's a very fair ranking. I'm just thinking I didn't want to put it above Cold Cans Kolsch either, but I think it is right up there. I did want to put it above Hazy Little Thing as well, because I think this is a better, more applicable in more circumstances type beer, and just as tasty. So that's why I went with 8. Joe, you shot your load way up there.
I went nuts. I really liked this beer. I like Josh's story. I like Josh. I like IPAs. I'm a self-proclaimed hophead, but I think when you refine it to this level, this is the essence of why I like IPAs. It's a lot of flavor, but it's not anything you have to fight through to be like, well, no, this is still good. No, it's not that bitter. It's just like, this is what they're supposed to taste like in my mind. I really, really like it. And to me, the only thing that was stopping it from being the new number 1 is how good Delirium Tremens is. It's just, that's a different tier. That beer is close to perfect, as is Deschutes. So
is this the first time you've had this beer, Joe?
I've maybe.
Okay.
I don't think
I think it's my first time as well.
Wow, I'm honored. I'm honored to bring this to your palates.
That said, I will concede that Spotted Cow, Cold Cans Kolsch, because this is the first time, those have more sentimental history in my heart.
Right.
So I could concede all the way down to 8, Nick, if you feel strongly about those facts. But
I do like that spot because, like you said, I think those other beers, we'll probably have to clear out Pyramid Snowcap and the other Lagunitas at some point. But the other beers up there, I think, have good reason to stay up there for more than just their taste or like the drinking it during the episode. It was more of a nostalgia or emotion tied to it. But this one does as well. It does well in the taste, and it's nice that it symbolizes Josh coming on to Cloud Studios Nation. So I think that's why it belongs where it is.
I do drink a 6-pack of it every time I have a session. So.
Oh wow! Well,
right in the studio, yeah. So,
sorry, fired, but so we have 3 options then, Nick. I believe we had a rip and replace method where we can take out number 8. It's just gone. So Rodenbach Grand Cru no longer in the rankings. We can boot out the bottom of the tier. That's Optimism Breweries Before the Dawn, or we can boot out number 100, which is currently
and just shift everything down.
Chelada.
Bud Light Chelada. That is.
Let's bump them.
Let's bump Chelada.
That's
truly
Chelada.
One of the most. If you go back, Josh, or anyone, and listen to Bud Light Chelada, you'll hear that's one of the most atrocious things I've put in my mouth. That's such a fucking awful beer. It's bad.
I've never even heard of it.
So Bud Light Chelada, we usually give a small moratorium, rated 1.86 out of 5 or awful on Beer Advocate. We reviewed this on June 8th, 2018. It was our 60th episode, and it said it's like a Bloody Mary but with beer, the most premium, parable, or terrible in CC history. Wow, some parallels. And the boys think a real Michelada might taste okay. That was our description.
So let's bump it.
Atrocious.
So does that mean you then have to like go in and edit every single number on this list? I was gonna say I can understand why you do the rip and replace because it's just so much easier.
It would be.
He's on to us.
Our intern does it, so it's no problem.
Oh, good.
Well, this was a lot of fun, Josh. Thank you for being here. Thank you for bringing this lovely beer to us.
You're welcome. I'm really pleasantly surprised at how well it performed. Like I said, I'm just happy to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you.
Thanks for being on the show, Josh.